We live in a world of masks, and this reality is not just a statement I make, but a profound awareness that I have developed over the years. By closely observing the dynamics around me, I realize how difficult it is, for me and many others, to express what I truly think and feel. Every time I find myself in a social situation, I often feel like an intruder, a silent observer, in a theater where everyone is playing their own role. Wearing a mask thus becomes a habit, a form of defense against the fear of being judged. I have often felt that overwhelming fear of losing what I consider important: friends, work, social acceptance, if I dare to reveal my true self. This desire for conformity manifests not only in my actions, but in the words I choose not to say. I have learned to observe the world around me carefully and to notice the small interactions that reveal how my fellow humans are prisoners of a system of apparent normality. The truth is that often what really matters is not what is said, but what is hidden behind the masks we all wear. When I look at the people in front of me, I see faces that conceal authentic feelings, anxieties, and insecurities. These masks, born of social pressures and fears inherited from previous generations, make me feel both close to and distant from those I interact with. It's almost paradoxical. On one hand, I long to connect with others and share thoughts and experiences. On the other hand, the fear of losing them if I were completely myself holds me back. This internal conflict constitutes a significant part of my life. The reality is that the world we live in is structured on fragile foundations of apparent security. Society stigmatizes authenticity, and those who dare to express opinions contrary to common thinking risk being marginalized. I remember a moment when, driven by frustration, I decided to speak up and share a different idea about a work project. My colleagues' faces froze in a silence laden with tension, and I realized that my sincerity not only made others uncomfortable, but also created a distance between us. Immediately afterward, I felt the cold embrace of loneliness. My authenticity was not welcomed, and the fear of losing my place within the group weighed heavily on my heart. Sometimes, I find myself thinking about how liberating it would be to be myself without any fear of others' judgment. Truly observing life and the things happening around me also means recognizing the oppressive reality of conformity. There are moments when I desperately want to shout my truth, but the fear of being ridiculed, of being alone, or of facing real consequences holds me back. I can't help but wonder, how much am I willing to sacrifice to be true to myself? How many masks am I forced to wear to fit into the society? For example, I have known people who, despite having a kind nature and strong moral integrity, feel compelled to hide their thoughts. Here emerge the phrases that weigh on their hearts: if you express what you think, you risk being fired. In a precarious job landscape, these words in their minds become more than just warnings. They turn into invisible chains that keep them imprisoned. Observing these people, I realize how high the price of conformity is. Their inner light, that flame of truth and honesty, is smothered by a cloak of fear and silence. It's a vicious circle that perpetuates itself, and observing this mechanism makes me reflect more and more on my life. When we wear a mask, we lose pieces of ourselves, and this not only has consequences on our relationships, but also on our mental health. Healing our soul takes effort, and understanding the pain behind a fake smile requires readiness, and the will to look beyond appearances. Every time I choose not to express my real point of view out of fear of appearing different, I sink once again into the spiral of conformity, and I feel betrayed by myself. Isn't this a game that all of us, to some extent, have played? The fear of losing things has been a constant in my existence. The surge to protect what I have at all costs, from my relationships to my job opportunities, has undermined my authenticity. Every time I feared hurting someone with my words, or not being understood, I've unconsciously chosen to remain in the realm of mediocrity. My truth is sacrificed, and in return, I feel increasingly devoid of who I am. But what would happen if we decided to look around and observe these dynamics more critically? If, instead of fearing others' judgment, we realize that others too are prisoners of their fear of exposing themselves? Perhaps what matters is not only being honest with ourselves but also supporting others in their need for truth. I imagine a world where we can break down the barriers of disappointment, where each person can contribute with their authenticity without the fear of repressing their voice. In this context, we could begin to build more genuine relationships based on sincerity and vulnerability. Truly observing the things happening around me also means recognizing when others are wearing their masks. In a meaningful dialogue, I have the opportunity to contribute to creating a safe space where fear can finally be shattered and authenticity celebrated. Every time I dare to share my deepest thoughts with people I know well, I feel like I'm extending a hand to invite them to do the same. This simple gesture has the power to break the ice and create a movement toward more authentic connection. Certainly, knowing how to observe also means knowing when it is appropriate to remove the mask, for myself and for those around me. My fear of losing myself, of losing what I have, paralyzes part of my existence, and, even more, prevents me from seeing the beauty of human fragility. Ultimately, what I discover through this observation is that, despite my fears, there is a community of souls longing for true connection. This journey of inner exploration has led me to deeper reflections. What does it mean for me to live an authentic life? And how valuable is the acceptance of others compared to my inner integrity? The answer, over time, has become clearer. I might fear losing myself, losing others along the way, but if I don't dare to be who I am, losing meaningful bonds and the most precious connections would be inevitable. Recognizing the importance of observing and understanding the world around me is a step toward freedom, a freedom that not only embraces authenticity, but also celebrates differences. There is no single truth, but multiple truths that deserve to be told and heard. Starting to remove the masks, then, becomes an act of courage. And the more I see and understand the dynamics of this masked world, the more I realize how contagious courage can be. If someone in my social circles had the courage to show themselves for who they really are, others would feel encouraged to do the same. By coming together, we would gradually free ourselves from that burden of fear and shame that has imprisoned us for too long. It is in these authentic spaces that true human connection arises, one that goes beyond appearance and directly touches the heart. In conclusion, as I live my life among the many masks, my determination grows. Knowing how to observe and recognize my fears and those of others is only the first step in confronting them. Wearing the courage to share what I think and feel is the key to breaking down the invisible wall that divides us. When we stop fearing truth and authenticity, we will discover that beneath every mask lies a soul yearning to be accepted, understood, and, above all, free to be itself. Urbano Fabbiani Soham.